One night, he sheltered 2 alien women from the cold. Now they call him their mate. The chill of the night air cut through the barren landscape like a blade, sharp and unyielding. The stars above twinkled coldly, distant and indifferent. From the edge of his cabin, Darrow could see the snow swirling around the wind-whipped plains, drifting in white sheets across the dark horizon. Winter in the highlands had arrived early this year, and the temperature had already plunged well below freezing. Ben had settled in this isolated corner of the world years ago, a simple man who preferred the solitude of the land. His cabin stood like a small beacon in the middle of nowhere, a place to escape, to work the land, to think, and to leave behind the noise of the city. He had no need for much, save for his cabin, his few tools, and the quiet that filled his days. But tonight was different. His solitude was broken. A sudden knock at the door startled him as he worked by the hearth. The fire crackled softly in the stone fireplace, casting long shadows across the room. Ben frowned and approached the door cautiously, his boots creaking on the wooden floor. No one ever came by out here, especially not in this weather. He opened the door, and his breath caught in his throat. 2 women stood before him, their figures silhouetted against the blinding snowstorm that raged behind them. They were not human. Their skin shimmered with an otherworldly glow, hues of violet and blue, like the deep ocean under moonlight. Their eyes were wide, alien but human enough to convey fear. They were freezing, trembling in the biting cold, their clothes ragged and stained from the harsh trek across the wilderness. One of them, the taller of the 2, stumbled forward, her voice hoarse as she whispered, "Please, help us." Ben hesitated for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. His first instinct was to shut the door, to return to the comfort of his fire and isolation. But something in her voice, something in the desperation of her eyes, stopped him. Without a word, he stepped aside, allowing them entry into the warmth of his cabin. The women staggered inside, shivering uncontrollably, and Ben hurried to close the door behind them. He could feel the heat of the fire battling the cold, but the chill in the air still clung to the room. "Sit," Ben said gruffly, motioning to the small table by the fire. "I'll get you something warm." He fetched a pot of soup from the stove, his movements swift but gentle as he poured it into 2 bowls. The women were silent now, both of them wrapped in blankets that he had thrown over their shoulders. Their strange eyes watched him, filled with something he couldn't quite place. As he handed them the bowls, the taller one reached out hesitantly, her fingers cold as they brushed against his skin. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice melodic but thick with emotion. "We are not from here. Our ship crashed and we've been stranded." Ben nodded. He didn't ask questions. He had learned long ago that sometimes it was better to simply let things unfold. He'd seen the marks of a struggle on their faces, something deep, something painful. Whatever their story was, he wasn't sure he wanted to know. The women sat by the fire, their hands trembling as they sipped the soup. Ben watched them quietly, wondering who they were, where they came from, and what had brought them to his doorstep on this lonely night. The fire crackled and popped, the warmth filling the room, but it was their presence that seemed to light the space now, filling the corners with an energy Ben couldn't explain. Time passed in silence, the only sounds being the soft murmur of their voices as they spoke in a language he couldn't understand. Ben didn't mind. He wasn't one for conversation anyway. Eventually, the storm outside began to ease, but the night remained bitterly cold. The women were still silent, their eyes occasionally meeting Ben's with an intensity that made him uneasy. He stood up to tend the fire, and as he did, he felt a strange pull, an unspoken connection between them. The taller one, the one who had first spoken, approached him. Her voice was softer now, almost a whisper. We wish to stay," she said. "We have nowhere else to go." Ben turned, meeting her gaze for the first time fully. Her eyes held a depth, an unspoken promise, and something more. Something that felt like a bond, a tether between them. He could feel it too, a strange stirring in his chest that he couldn't quite explain. "I can't ask you to stay," he said, his voice rough. "This place is too small. Too lonely." But the second woman, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward, her voice trembling but certain. "You saved us," she said. "You gave us warmth when you didn't have to. We are grateful." Ben's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to say something, to explain that he had done it out of kindness, nothing more. But the words didn't come. Instead, there was only a silence that stretched between them, filled with something he didn't understand. And then the first woman spoke again, her voice steady, unwavering. "We are your mates, Ben Darrow. You may not see it yet, but we are bound to you, and we will stay with you if you will accept us." Ben felt the weight of her words, the truth in them. He stared at them both, his mind racing, but in his heart, he knew what he needed to do. He nodded slowly, taking a step toward them, his hand reaching out. They didn't hesitate. Together, they closed the distance between them, and the warmth of the fire was nothing compared to the heat that blossomed in his chest. They had sheltered from the cold together, and now they would shelter each other, for as long as the storm raged outside. As the night wore on, the fire crackled, casting flickering shadows across the small cabin. The alien women, now wrapped in blankets and warmth, settled closer to the fire, their eyes meeting Ben's with an unspoken understanding. Ben sat down beside them, his mind still grappling with the inexplicable pull he felt toward them. They were from a distant world, stranded and alone. Yet in their eyes he saw something familiar, the same longing for connection he had once felt long ago. The taller woman, whose name was Lyra, turned to him, her violet eyes glowing softly in the firelight. "You may not understand it yet, but you have given us more than shelter. You have given us hope." Her words lingered in the air, and for the first time, Ben realized that he wasn't just helping them survive the cold night. He was part of something much greater, a bond that transcended the distance of space, a connection born in a moment of compassion. He reached out, his hand brushing against Lyra's, and the warmth of her touch ignited something deep within him. The second woman, Kayla, smiled softly, her gaze tender as she watched the exchange. "You are not alone anymore, Ben Darrow," Lyra said quietly. "We will stay with you not just out of necessity, but because we are meant to be here with you." Ben's heart swelled as he looked between the two women. He had spent years alone, but now, for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of belonging. The storm outside may have passed, but the storm of emotions inside him had only just begun. As the fire crackled and the warmth of their presence filled the room, Ben knew one thing for sure. His life had changed forever.